Friends, before I begin, I wish to convey my sincere gratitude to His Excellency, Ambassador Chennai, for having granted me this occasion to speak to you today. I also wish to thank the Deputy Chief of Mission, Mr. Amit Kumar, and also Mrs. Mohanpui. The topic on which I shall now speak is one I have reflected over very often in the past. On August 15, 1947, when India gained independence, the question of the nation's constitution rose to the forefront. What sort of a constitution should India have? Our leaders insisted that we needed a constitution in which the rights of all are guaranteed. Farmers, widows, accountants and beggars were all citizens of India, and all their rights had to be secured. Hence, they assigned the task of framing a constitution to Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, or Baba Saheb Ambedkar, a philosopher, economist, politician and social reformer who had struggled against prejudice and bigotry almost all his life. Dr. Ambedkar accepted this task and produced a constitution which was a real marvel. He included in his spectrum every person in our vast subcontinent. No one was excluded because for him, we were all Indians and we were all equal. On probing Ambedkar's life, we notice two issues that strike us. First, both as an adult and as a child, he suffered painful humiliations. And second, he overcame them all by heroic effort. He never reacted with hatred or violence, since he viewed all such indignities as barriers that he needed to surmount. In school, he could not sit with his classmates. He could not drink from cups the other boys used. He loved to study Sanskrit, but as he was an untouchable, he had to study Persian instead. Yet, with all this, there was one teacher, a high caste man, whom he deeply loved. This kind-hearted teacher accepted him, inspired him, ate with him, and changed his name to Ambedkar because that was the teacher's own name. In 1917, Ambedkar returned to India with a doctorate from Columbia University, but in his office, no one handed over files or papers to him. Instead, they threw them on his table and he had to pick them up himself. At times, no hotel would admit him. He once started a business in Bombay, but the business failed because of his caste. Finally, however, he succeeded as a college professor because his students deeply respected him. Like Mahatma Gandhi in South Africa, Ambedkar too resolved to overcome these insults and humiliations, however painful the task might be. The influences that Ambedkar received were many. Kabir, the 16th century philosopher and saint, who tried to unite Vaishnavism with Sufism, deeply inspired him. Rousseau and Voltaire, the famous French philosophers, had an impact on him, though as His Excellency pointed out just a little while ago, his use of the terms liberty, equality and fraternity, which symbolize the spirit of the French Revolution, Ambedkar was very clear that he had received them not from the French philosophers, but from the Buddha. Marxism and Buddhism influenced him as well, and he interpreted the teachings of the Lord Buddha in a typically Marxist way. He personally was not a Marxist, yet for him, the main cause of sorrow was conflict among classes, and the sufferings mentioned by the Lord Buddha were tyranny and poverty. To surmount them, we had to restrain our passions and lead virtuous lives. For him, Nirvana was not an escape from the world, but a means to enrich the world and make it better for all. Ambedkar's close friend and ally, Lokamanya Balagangadhar Tilak said, "Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it." To this, Ambedkar responded, if Tilak had been born among untouchables, he would have said, "The annihilation of untouchability is my birthright." Swami Vivekananda once uttered these memorable words, "I do not believe in a God who will give me undying bliss in heaven, but who cannot give me bread upon this earth." Similarly, Ambedkar said, "Religion must be a matter of principles and not of rules. If it degenerates into rules, it ceases to be a religion because it kills responsibility, which is the essence of a true religious act." One foreigner whom Ambedkar deeply respected was his professor and mentor at Columbia University, namely Dr. John Dewey. Dewey followed the philosophy of pragmatism, which says that a true idea is a successful idea. That is to say, if something is useful, practical, and workable, it is okay. If not, it should be rejected. Of course, a philosophy like this, if wrongly used, can be dangerous. Ambedkar, however, did not use it in an adverse way. He firmly believed that mankind should be liberated from fear, oppression, and want. And in this context, he declared, political freedom loses its meaning if caste oppression is not removed. Dr. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi, as is well known, did not see eye to eye on several issues, yet they deeply respected one another. Ambedkar believed the lower castes should separate from Hindu society, but Gandhi opposed this. Gandhi believed that everyone in Indian society needed to be purified. For Gandhi, it was not just untouchables who needed help, because everybody needed help. In 1932, when Mahatma Gandhi was sick and in prison, Ambedkar visited the Yerwada jail in Pune to offer his condolences to him. On that occasion, the Mahatma said, "Dr. Ambedkar, you are an untouchable by birth, and I am an untouchable by adoption. The two of us must be one. The two of us must be indivisible." I'm sure research in the coming years will bring to light many more links that bound together these two eminent men. Thank you very much.